Welcome back to the Composing Made Simple podcast. This is episode 13. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the death of melody, and then we're going to go into a couple of sample libraries that's been released and announced over the last month. Project Sam's The Free Orchestra, Audio Imperia Nucleus, Spitfire's Symphonic Organ, BBC Symphony Orchestra, and Audio Ollie's LA Modern Percussion. So hope you join us for this episode. Hope you listen to it. So let's get on into it.
Composing made simple. We talk about something new every show. Composing made simple. Grab a coffee, have a seat, and let's go.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Yeah, going well.
Living the dream.
Thanks.
That's good. Yeah, we're all living the dream. Lots happened this month, so this is going to be a big episode. Kind of excited to talk about a lot of things. A lot of sample libraries this episode, but we kind of have to. But today we thought we would talk about, we found this video. I think actually Chris shared it to me on Discord in the Composing Made Simple Discord channels, the death of melody. And I've seen the thread on VI, and I thought we should tackle this because melody, I think for all of us, is very important. I know I'm a melody guy, and I'm pretty sure both Chris and Curtis are as well. So we thought we would talk about it today and give our thoughts and opinions. So who wants to go first? Do you want me, or I guess it doesn't really matter. Chris, since you brought it up, I guess, do you want to go? You want to roll?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I can. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, melody is one of those like three fundamentals of music that we all know, right? Like melody, harmony, and rhythm. And to me, like melody is kind of the main thing that people seem to cling on to and remember, right? Like for underscore and stuff, people don't go out of a theater and say, they probably do. They say, oh, there's a beautiful underscore, but they don't really hum that because it's something that's there to kind of support what's going on the screen or whatever. But when melody is present, it's kind of like the music's time to shine in a way, and especially for the more like classic films and Williams comes to mind, of course, and a bunch of the classical romantic composers. But melody is kind of where we as composers bring our own voice, I would say. The way we approach our melody choices, which notes follow which, what intervals we use, all that stuff is very individual for each of us. And when people start humming our music, it makes us feel really good because it's like what we came up with, and they're going to be humming the melodies that we wrote. So I don't think I've ever written a single piece of music without a melody to it. For me, I just happen to gravitate towards melodic music in the first place, and that might be my upbringing as a classical musician anyway. I think every single piece of music I played had a melody, especially as a piano player. It's full of melodies in the first place. So, melody is just a thing that ties everything together. You can have a rhythmic underbed, you can have really beautiful harmonies, but with the melody leading the way, it's kind of like the conductor of the whole band, I can say. So, for me, that's number one. Like when I'm composing, I think the melody comes first 90% of the time. I don't know how it is for you guys, but generally I would say it's quite up there in the music making process. So how about you, Todd? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with you. I can't write a piece without a melody. Like I've tried. I'm doing one right now actually. I'm going off trying new things, trying to do a hybrid orchestral piece, and man, I'm fighting it. I'm like, where's the melody? Where's the melody gonna sit?
Right.
It's just like you said. I've been brought up by melody. I'm not really a classical trained or nothing, but I've listened to a lot of classical music. I went down that rabbit hole in my late teens, early 20s, and I can't think of music without it. And something you said, Chris, I want to touch on is the melody. When people hear the melody, they feel connected with the music. It's like that's speaking to them, and we all interpret the melody differently. Like you could hear a piece that Williams does, and all three of us would interpret that melody differently, and because we want to take it with us into our life, and how does it affect our life, and how does it fit into our life, and you're carried around. So that's what's important. I think this video that we're talking about, the death of melody, we'll link it in the show notes, but they were talking more about pop music, and I'm going to say I think where he kind of went wrong is the sophistication of a melody in pop music. Because if you go back, 40 years ago in the 60s, the 50s, and 40s, the melodies were pretty sophisticated for pop music. You think of the Beatles, but even before the Beatles, like you think of the American music in the 50s,
Right.
it was very, like, they were still coming from jazz. I mean, early rock and roll comes from jazz music. And like when Elvis came, do you guys remember the song "Rock Around the Clock"? That was like the first kind of real mainstream rock and roll song. And if you listen to some of those songs, you could still hear walking bass lines, because most of the people that were playing in those bands were from jazz bands. Anyway, I just think the dumbing down and the sophistication of melody in pop music is, he's right on that, but I don't think he tackled it right. And I think a melody's a melody. If you can sing it and you can hum it back and attached to you, that's a melody. It doesn't have to be sophisticated, But pop music is going for the lowest common denominator. And I think what's happened since the 90s is the manufacturing of music. The what I mean, the cookie cutter stuff. And that's what gives pop a bad name. But you can still find great pop music. It's out there, I'm telling you. And I think, Chris, you remember the thread on your Facebook about the person we had a problem with saying, whoever writes pop music is not very talented. Like, then you go write a pop music song and make it a hit. That's my challenge to anybody out there that says pop music is easy to do. It's not. It sounds easy, but there's a lot going on. It's very, was it formula driven?
Formulaic.
Yeah, very on that. And I think that's what's given. It's watered down. But that's what I'm saying. If you compare it to like 1950s pop music to today, there's definitely a change. But I don't think melody is over. The death of melody, I don't agree with that. Maybe in film music, like you said, underscore is taking over. But man, I still think everybody wants a melody. What about you, Curtis?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, people have been saying this since Beethoven 5, which doesn't have a melody. That's not a melody. It's a motive that is then brilliantly unpacked across the course of, 15, 20 minutes, right? This is not a super new thing. I do think that, we need to make the distinction there between a melodic idea and a motive, right? Just a short musical idea that's maybe a few pitches, does not unfold over time. It's not a musical sentence. It's like a musical phrase, just one phrase all by itself.
Or rhythmic.
And that can be a matter of taste, how much you think something is one of those or the other. I think when he, in this particular video, he spends a lot of time showing different pop songs. And what he's saying is they look at this use of basically motive as the driving force in their structure. And, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's fine. I think that there is skill. It takes a tremendous amount of skill to actually do that. It's much more constrained than straight up melody. I don't think that it takes more skill, but I do think that it takes skill. And I think when people go after something maybe because it just, goes da 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 or something, right? Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, that is pretty simple, but look what they do with that simple thing. Like, how well do they use that simple thing is the question that I want to answer. And in a vast majority of successful pop music, they actually use it quite well. And that's pretty much why it's popular.
Yeah.
So, I found the video interesting. I thought it was good. I thought it made a lot of good examples. I thought it was a good, if you're not super aware, I guess, of the difference between melody and motive and how you can move music forward with the other musical elements. Chris, you did forget to mention tone colors, one of the musical elements. Aaron Copeland would be scolding you right now.
Ooh, I'm so sorry.
But sorry, I used to teach middle school, so I have to throw that in there.
Throw it in there. Yeah.
I used to literally teach how to listen to music by Aaron Copeland, which goes through all the the musical elements. But that's also, a way you can develop something is with any one of the other musical elements. Again, watching this video, one of my first thought was, okay, but what about Beethoven 5? And then my second thought was, okay, but what about atonal music, which obviously has no melodic or harmonic content. Mm-hmm. It's all rhythm and tone color. And there are some brilliant pieces of music that are developed over a span of a long period of time. I mean, there's whole operas that are written and are well crafted, and they're just rhythm and tone color. That's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with if you don't like that, that's okay. I do think there's something wrong with saying that that's not valuable as art. It's very valuable as art, and it's brought us a lot of really good things. So I don't know. I guess it's not that I thought the video was bad. I actually really enjoyed watching it. It sort of brought me back to a lot of those discussions where people, sit down and, trash, Schoenberg or Berg or Webern or something without knowing about it. And at the same time, it also, like you said, Todd and Chris, sort of made me think of all these people who kind of, do the same thing to popular contemporary music or even tonal music, right? Like there's a huge swath of academia that if they listen to your music and they hear tonality, will just tell you to go away. I don't have time for you. I also think is not super helpful. It's always like, whenever something is successful, my first thought is usually, even if I don't like it, to be like, but why is it successful, and what can it illuminate for me?
Yeah, what can you steal from it?
Exactly. Like the score to The Matrix, right, is atonal. It's like doesn't have a key. There's no theme. There's no melody. It's just basically those horn things. It's great. It's awesome. It works so well in that context. And there's a lot you can do with that. Right. So, it's just it's not that I'm bored by it. It's just I'm kind of over the controversy and arguing about it, I guess.
Right. I think he just went about it the wrong way. The death of melody. It's clickbait. I mean, it's basically what it is. So he should have said maybe the death of a sophisticated melody.
You can't really be too mad for clickbait.
No, I'm not mad. I'm just saying, like, he's brilliantly he's borrowing from pop right now. He's making a clickbaity title that people are gonna click. There you go. That's what popular people do on YouTube. So, anyway. Yeah, I mean,
he had to follow that up with what makes a good melody, right? Or else people are gonna be like, "You're so biased."
Yeah, right. I mean, that's so subjective, though. What is a good melody? I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, if you want a career in music, you need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to move people. These are the things that all the people that we talk about, that's what they did. Very brilliantly, even if it was simple, complex, whatever. There's something in there that touched people, that made you want to listen to their music. And when that happens, especially if you hear a song. I'll give you a great example of pop music. Third Eye Blind, back in like 1999, maybe 2000. I worked at a car wash in high school. And we always had pop music, the local stations, the local, rock, pop, whatever, top 40 hits. And I would always hear that, their most popular song. Now I'm drawing a blank on it. Do 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 do. Yeah, okay, yeah, we all know that song. Mm-hmm. I hated it, and then I heard it so many times that I started getting into my, my ear holes and getting me kind of like, okay, all right, I'm kind of digging this. So I went out and bought the CD, their first CD, and man, I was so. I mean, even though it was one song, but there are other songs that they wrote. Like most of the songs on that album, their most famous one, I can't believe I can't think of the name right now. I'm drawing a blank, I'm sorry. But I like other songs besides that popular one. Ones that probably most people won't even listen to or will never be played on the radio. So you never know what you can discover, That's just your barrier of entry, Everybody's got to write a hit to get you in, So it's just like kind of my little story. But yeah, I mean, it is like Curtis said, and like you guys touched on, this has been discussed back probably since the first person made a melody. Right. And it's...
Well, and I mean, when you look at I think it's a matter of fashion, right? Yeah. Like right now, it is not fashionable to have like a Queen style melody that has 7 distinct sections that all flow into one another. But it'll come back. True. It'll come back.
It always does.
It's pop culture. It comes back.
I mean, why do you think this is the case? I mean. We can all say Hans Zimmer changed film scoring. I mean, definitely. He has. Yeah. But he still uses melody, right? I mean, I don't know so much
he's more of a motive texture guy, but he's really good. He's a really great motive texture guy. His motives are excellent. But you're right. He can write a melody too. I mean, his Planet Earth 2, the melody for that is it just slays me. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. So, I mean, he just does what he is, and that's the thing about film music too, is people often complain about film music. This person is ruining film music. I'm like, well, you don't know how much direction that person got and what they were supposed to do. I mean, maybe they wrote 10 good melodies and they got them shot down by the, committee of people who get approval on, whatever gets into the film, and they wanted something more, in the background.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Also, a lot of modern movies, like Hans Zimmer said, it's hard to write a thematic score because they're editing at the last minute, changing scenes around. You wrote something, now it doesn't fit. Now you got to go back to the drawing table. But if you like Hans does, you write the score of underbed stuff or whatever, it pretty much can fit with most stuff. I mean, obviously you can tweak it. So, I mean, the idea of, like the classic John Williams, the golden era of go back to before John Williams and listen to film score music. It sounds a lot like a lot of Williams stuff, but it was very different. It's like you're listening to a symphony. I mean, it's like back.
And John Williams doesn't use a click track.
Right.
It's all streamers and punches.
Which gives it life and feeling.
Well, I mean, everything else is to a click track. You have to understand, like, when you're writing something commercially, you're not writing a piece of music that is meant to be played from bar one to the end.
Right.
You are putting something together that will then be reassembled and cut together based on takes, based on what they want to cut in and out. There might be multiple versions of it, and that has a tendency to kind of strip personality away from it, as it's done, and it takes a very strong voice to kind of push through that. Because, of course, a filmmaker, if you were a director on a movie that costs $300 million, you're going to want the certainty of having it scored to a click track, of being able to go in there and kind of monkey with things if you need to, because it's your, butt on the line if this doesn't work, right? Again, when people rail against this, I'm like, well, yeah, but put yourself in their shoes.
Right.
When this movie cost as much as the Titanic, not the movie Titanic, I mean like the boat.
Right.
Actual shit. You're gonna have some. So you're gonna have to make some concessions for that. So anyway.
Exactly, and I mean, technology's changed everything. I mean, we have this new tech now that people are experimenting with it. Does that make film music less than? I mean, like I said, you just go back to all the tentpole composers, Goldsmith, Williams, Silvestri, and just listen to how they've impacted the movies that we grew up on, or not for you, Chris, but for me and Curtis. And then you just see how it's evolved, And synths have been used. This isn't a new thing, people. Synths have been used back in the 70s on film scores. Like I said, I was listening. I can't remember this. We talked about this on an early episode, but I was listening to a film. Was it Heat? Maybe it was Heat, the movie Heat. And dude, there was literally like the arpeggio or the arpeggiator from a synth doing drums and stuff in that score, and that was from like the early 90s or mid 90s. So this isn't anything new. It's just. Now it's more of a focus. Back then it was kind of a backgroundy thing. It's kind of layered over the orchestra. So this is nothing new. I mean, you just got to go back and listen to film scores, maybe independent films, maybe commercial music. Yeah, this is kind of new, but it's always been there. And we've always been experimenting. If you're not experimenting, dude, you're not growing as an artist, as a person, and you're not going anywhere. I mean, everybody grows, everybody changes. Like I said, I'm taking a whole new direction right now when it comes to writing music. I'm experimenting with all synths and then trying to maybe add a orchestral piece in there. So I've been gravitating to more Omnisphere. And speaking of Omnisphere, Curtis, did you see the new pack the Unfinished is coming out with? Next Friday, dude. It's going to be over like 500 patches or something. It's like awesome. Based on like Blade Runner 2049. It sounds really good. I can't think of the name. It's very Japanese. I can't think of the name of it. But dude,
anyway, something else.
Yeah, but Unfinished is like you don't even have to.
Unfinished stuff isn't very expensive.
Oh yeah, it's like maybe 30, 40 bucks.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
Stuff all the time.
It was supposed to be released today, but he had to push it back a week. I can't think of the name of it. It's like very Japanese.
I'm going to a site right now.
Gaiac or something like that, or. But anyway. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how much more we can talk about Death and Melody, but there was something else. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think the video was great. I watched it. He made some great points, like Curtis said, but I think it's a little clickbaity, and I think but he had to do it to get views. I mean, that's the culture we live in. That's the world we live in now. You know, you look at news titles; they're all clickbaity because people won't click on it. You know, let's move on to the good stuff. We got a lot to talk about in sample libraries. A lot's happened in this month. Like, holy good God! Like, I think everybody's releasing new stuff. Or,
seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think everyone wants to be prepared for 2020.
Probably because the recession's going to hit soon. So, sorry. Yeah. So, one I wanted to bring up, because I just found out about this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but the Project Sam offers the free orchestra. Have you guys heard about this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is new to me. So I think what is it? Every last of the month they release a new kind of library based on their libraries. Is that?
Yeah. So they basically take a little piece from their Symphobia series once every month, and they package that as the free orchestra. So it kind of gives the composer a taste of their existing material, which is really cool. And probably when they reach the end of this free orchestra, they're probably going to release Symphobia 4. So kind of makes sense.
So they're kind of going on the Spitfire Labs thing, which is cool. I'm all for that, man. Yeah. I love labs. I think
so is Orchestral Tools. They're going to do their free Layers orchestra once they release their new player as well. So everyone has to step up their free game a little bit because of Spitfire.
Yeah. We're hold on. We'll get to Spitfire.
Speaking of which, I have been using the Labs instruments. I'd never had them before. I just downloaded them finally, and they're all excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they made a note in their keynote about the Beyonce song that was, I think, all Spitfire Labs. So there you go.
Yeah.
No excuses. So yeah, we'll have the link down below for the Project Sam if you're unaware. Like I said, it was news to me. I never heard about it. I mean, there's just so much buzz with sample libraries that sometimes you miss these things. So I thought we should mention it. You can never go wrong with free. So all right, the next big one was Audio Imperia's Nucleus. So this is was it Jaeger? Is that what the other one was?
Yeah, Jaeger, yeah.
I'm not familiar with this because I didn't buy that. I've seen it a little bit, but like I said, like I'm not too much for this kind of a composer, but this seemed cool. So it's called the Orchestral Core, which is basically kind of like, I guess you could say, similar to Jaeger, but like kind of in the style of Albion 1 or Metropolis Arc, all in condensed one orchestra. So I just thought we'd mention it. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with it. Basically, the key features is it's more orchestral, cinematic sound. So, it's going for that. So it's got soloists, individual instrument sections, pre-orchestrated ensembles, and full ensembles. So like it's in the same vein of Albion and Metropolis Arc.
Oh, okay.
Ensemble, or and based. Kind of people that don't know what they're doing just to get good sounds. I don't mean that in a bad way. You just know what I mean. Yeah,
that's cool.
And there's been a lot of talk because of the soloists. When you compare it to Albion, which is primarily ensembles, these solo instruments actually sound quite good. And if you go onto VI Control, you listen, or SoundCloud, and listen to their demos of these instruments, the legato sounds great to my ears.
Cool.
Especially like the oboe, the French horn. Those all sound great. And comparing this Nucleus to the Jaeger is aimed more for the hybrid, maybe trailer composer who needs orchestral instruments, versus this is more of like we said, Albion type of thing, or Berlin Inspire. It's kind of a all-in-one beginning orchestral package for that composer.
I think this is the route most sample library companies are going to start going down. So what this thing offers is strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion, choir, and sound design. So very, which Albion does not have choir, but Metropolis Arc does. And the soloists that you were talking about, Chris, is there's violin, cello, trumpet, French horn, flute, and oboe. And the choir offers, sopranos, altos, tenors, basses. Woodwinds is flutes, oboes, clarinets, basic orchestral. He's got timpani, marimba, xylophone, glockenspiel, pizzicato articulations for strings, and it's got drones and pads. So they include the solos, which I think that's what I thought this new library that Spitfire was like. This is going to be an all-in-one soloists, everything. You're one deal. Well, we didn't get that, but it is going that route, and I think for a lot of developers, that's where they need to go to be more, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what people want. They want the whole orchestra. I want the whole package. I want soloists. Yeah. So I think that's what we're going to go for, and it's good to see that Audio Imperial is doing that. So the next one is Audio Ollie, LA Modern Percussion. Chris, I think you bought this, right?
Yeah, no, I was saying that I was fortunate they sent me a copy for review, but I played around with a little bit, and the the first patches you pull up are the bass drums, and they are super organic at the same time being super punchy and trailer ready, basically. And I think it's primarily aimed for the composer who just wants to get up and running really, really quickly. They want that modern cinematic trailer type of sound without doing very much mixing work.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because Alan Meyerson mixed this, and he also works with Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL, I think. So that sound you get right out of the box, which is really nice. The only, I guess, downside to it, but it's not really a downside because it's listed on the box, is that there's not very much high percussion in it. So it's not like your complete all-in-one solution for scoring percussion, but it has the fundamentals of the low stuff that you really need to impact your music really, really hard. So it's definitely unique in the marketplace, I'd say. It's not something that's really been covered before. I mean, the Arcs have done a great job with acoustic percussion. Heaviosity's done stuff. Yeah,
Hans Zimmer percussion. This is probably the closest.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually got it too, just actually completely unrelatedly off the recommendation of another composer. And the thing that I thought stood out about it the most was the way that they have those patches that are mapped, not by velocity but by range for the dynamics. Yeah, right. Which is really, really cool. Actually, it gives you a lot of control. You're not sitting there, moving a velocity controller, later. Because you can just dial in exactly what you want, which I thought was really creative and really cool. And also they've got, they talk about it in their video on it. They do something with the round robins on the non-velocity ones,
right?
To make those a little bit better. I don't remember exactly what the mechanic is, but it's cool.
So they have like 2 keys that have all 25 dynamic layers on it, and then they also have 2 keys with every other round robin. Every other dynamic layer mapped to it. So one has like 1, 3, 5, 7. The other one has like 2, 4, 6, 8. So you never hear the same sample twice.
Yeah,
right? It's cool. Yeah,
it's definitely got some innovations in it.
Well, that's how Junkie XL programs his drum libraries the same way. Mm-hmm. And when he showed that, on one of his studio time episodes, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, man, why don't more libraries do that? That makes complete sense to have it, mapped instead of, velocity on a key, but map the whole keyboard where it's soft, to high, or softness to loudness. And so that was one thing for me that I was like, okay, I'm interested in it, but I didn't pick it up. I just have I have so much percussion libraries, but it's definitely something I'm looking for maybe in the future if I need it. Because like I said, I have Hans Zimmer percussion, and it usually works for me, but I don't really do that bombastic drum thing. So if I do need it, I have that. But definitely this is on my list for, maybe if it's on sale. I mean, I know it's on sale. And
it's exceptionally clean.
Yeah.
Just very... just transparent, and it's not muddy at all. That's the one thing about Hans Zimmer percussion, I find, that it can get really muddy really quick. But this is just exceptionally clean but that also makes it sound very modern and, as Chris said, very trailery. So if you're looking for a more organic sound, probably not this guy. It's probably like a Storm Drum 3 style something, or maybe a Hans percussion sort of deal.
Yeah, I have Storm Drum 3. I have Hans Zimmer percussion. I have. I don't know, and then whatever Cinesamples has, they have they have low percussion, I think, or something. It's not as good. I don't really use it that much. But so I mean, but it was definitely something I thought we should talk about. And I know, Chris, didn't you do a walkthrough of it on your channel?
I haven't done a video of this library yet.
Okay.
No. I have to though. I will be. Yeah.
So I'd look for that. Once we get that, we'll put it in the show notes. I did watch Daniel James. I think he had a stream last week, start to compose with it. And that's what he said, Curtis, basically what you said. It's very clean and stuff like that. So, I just thought we'd mention it. But I think that was it. Now we move on to, of course, we can't have an episode without Spitfire, right?
Of course.
We should have Spitfire Corner or something. We need to.
Or just rename it the Composing Made Spitfire podcast.
Yes.
Oh, no.
But I mean, they released 2. Well, they didn't release.
They're huge. I mean, they have tons of stuff.
They're like I told you. If this hasn't confirmed, if you didn't watch their keynote, they are the Apple. They want to be Apple, man. I'm telling you, they're borrowing from Apple, which they're doing well, but it's still not Apple. I've been an Apple fanboy. I'm not so much anymore since like 2008, so I've seen plenty of keynotes, and it's getting there. The best of the keynote was Christian at the end. What he said, that was the best. So if you saw that, you were there live, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so this month they actually released, well, they announced one and they released a Symphonic organ, which, yeah, it's cool. It's not really something I would probably pick up, maybe, you know, if I have money to throw around. But I mean, if you guys want to talk about that in a bit, or did you anybody?
I mean, it looks like a really good organ sample. I mean, I don't have any organ samples. I don't need them for a lot of stuff, but if I did, this would probably be, you know, 1 or 2 on the top of the list of, hey, let's go look at this and see. It looks really nicely recorded. It's a beautiful instrument in a beautiful space. Looks great. Yeah. I feel like they sort of shafted the people who they collaborated with on this one because they put it out and then immediately went straight to their big, giant, massive thing.
Yeah, right.
But no, it does seem really nice.
Very niche, right?
Well, I mean, organ, you know, if no one's giving you Interstellar as your, you know, reference cue,
right?
You know, there's not a lot of use for it all the time, but it can be useful for backing.
Yeah. Do you think you could use just like a regular organ? Because I think Contact has organs. I mean, do you think if you drenched it,
Contact organs are awful.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like,
they're thin and they're not, you know, they don't have the depth and the sound.
Right.
I would definitely go with something like this if I needed an organ.
Okay. I was just saying, like, could you do this? But obviously, yeah, the sound and the organ that they use.
Well, I mean, the reason you add organ, right? Reason I would add organ if I wasn't specifically looking for it, I just wanted it in the background, is for the size, the sheer tone color, just scale. You know, right? Because an organ has just this vast sound. It's meant to sound like an orchestra, full orchestra. And so I would want to use something like this, where the color is going to be, you know, really, really high quality. I have used the Contact organs before, and they I don't think they would function well because they wouldn't make anything balloon up in size. They would just kind of make it sound cheesy.
I was just saying, like, what do you think if you could sound design it, get it close? But I think what we should say here is, like, if you've ever heard a real organ, like a church organ, yeah, when they hit those low bass notes, holy good God. Like
a beach towel waving in front of you.
Yeah. Like if you've never heard a real organ before, like a church organ, like it's legit.
Yeah, one of those instruments that is a building.
Yeah,
you know,
basically, it's a whole wall, like the whole thing.
Yes, yeah. It's a structure, not an instrument.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's some people that probably never heard one, just like nobody's probably ever heard an orchestra. I mean,
I would like to hear them sample some more modern organs. I know that there's a really high quality, very new organ in the Disney Concert Hall. Mm-hmm. It's the one that kind of looks like French fries in the back. Nice. I'd love to see that as a library. So, you know, Christian and everybody, if you're listening, you know, yeah, you know, I'd buy that too. I'd buy it like an organ bundle.
We've got a newly acquired fanboy for Spitfire, Curtis Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm just kidding. How about you, Chris? You're a classical guy, so I'm sure you've heard real organs before, right?
Yeah. I've heard real organs, but I personally never been the hugest fan of organs or the tone of them myself. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, I didn't even check out the trailer for this product. Actually, I have an organ from Sound Iron, and that's pretty much it. And so for everything else, I just use piano. I don't really use organ at all.
I'm a harpsichord guy. Harpsichord.
Harpsichord's nice. Yeah.
That's too Baroque. Anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, I love organ. Like, especially the trailer was good. I think, like I said, this isn't something I would probably gravitate to, but like Curtis always says, hey, if there's a project that called for it, that's the one I'm going for. So yeah, you know, just like their last library they released last month, the what was it, that synth thing that was pretty cool. It's like something I probably wouldn't buy unless I actually needed it. But well, I guess we can't wait any longer. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the BBC Symphony Orchestra, which is 70 pages on VI about the trailer, the teaser trailer. I think it got up to like 60 or 70.
We're to 70. Yep,
70. Yep. So there you go. If any company can build hype in the sample library world, it is Spitfire, and that's what I'm telling you. They are Apple. They're pulling things right out of Apple's playbook. So that's why I like them. That's why I always gravitated towards Spitfire. Even when I first got into this, before Spitfire was really Spitfire, I could just tell like their attention to detail, and it really shows in this product, I think, that they released. And going what we talked about before is I said, like, I think companies are going to be going into more of that one kind of package deal thing. Like, here you go. Here's the symphony and everything you need, choir, all in one with soloists. I was kind of sad not to see soloists. Or did they say there were soloists?
There are soloists. They
There
recorded the leader of each section separately.
But yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, and you can blend them in, right? All right. But the big thing for me was...
Or you could...
Go ahead.
I mean, presumably, if it's like the first chair violin, it's just a solo violin. I mean, presumably, right?
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to... I don't know, because I remember they said that you could blend it in to get a different sound. I don't know if it's its own patch. I don't know.
Right.
Probably is. Yeah, violin one
It
leader.
would make sense, though.
Yeah. Hopefully, that'd be really good.
It's silly to record the leader of each section and not have it be like a patch you can play on its own. That would be, if it was just like a mic, that would be silly. But I mean, I guess you're right, Todd. We don't know, because no one has its product.
Yeah,
in
they
their
didn't
hands.
really go into depth if it's solo. Like as I'm saying, they just said like, yeah, we've recorded the first violin, so I'm guessing it's a solo. But they didn't say solo. Oh, it says and soloist. Okay, including groups and soloist. Okay, so yeah, it should be then.
Nice.
But I guess the big thing for me was, which we've talked about many times, is it's in Spitfire's player. I'm going for it. Every library is going to be in their own player, which I'm a huge fan of. I have Erica Whitacre library, which I've been playing around with a lot, and it works pretty well. Obviously, Curtis, you got that one in Hans Zimmer strings first, right when they came out, so you could speak to the player a lot more than I can. But I just think that gives, and the demo. I mean, we have to talk about the demo that they played. Obviously, we heard it through the keynote, but I actually listened to it on SoundCloud. And obviously, I know Curtis will say most of that's just because of orchestration, but for a couple split seconds, just listening over the live stream, I thought I was listening to a real orchestra. I mean, it sounds that good. I mean, obviously that comes down to programming, orchestration.
I mean, yeah, that guy is, can't remember his name, Andy something, is obviously an extraordinarily talented MIDI programmer and knows his stuff in terms of, I'm sure he's a very good orchestrator and composer as well. But I mean, if you go listen to his demos on Symphonic, Spitfire Symphonic Orchestra, and they're also very good. Although I will say there is a noticeable increase in quality, in my opinion, between the sound of his demos for Symphonic Orchestra and this one that he did for them in a week. By the way, he's only had it in a week. Which is pretty impressive. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot. Yes. Is it a lot of it just I know how to voice a chord and how to, use a texture, of course. But I mean, the opportunity is there if you do know how to do that to use this to achieve some pretty cool results. But
Andy Blaney.
I think probably. Yes,
Andy Blaney.
Thank you. I'm glad we got his name in there because he's very good. Much bigger than our podcast. But, I think probably, and this is just a guess. This is my gut. My guess is the thing that makes that sound so good. The thing that really stood out to me in that demo was the image of it. Like everything sits in a space. Like you can hear that. Yeah. The trumpets and trombones are sitting where brass should sit, and the strings are in front of them as they should be. And I really have to wonder if that's these spill mics that they made a big deal out of, so when they recorded, like the first violins, obviously they only bring the first violins in to do that. But what they did is they actually left all the mics up for all the other sections, and those were always running. And so you're getting sort of because when you record an orchestra altogether, some of your first violin stuff bleeds into, the mics that are recording your winds or your brass. And I think that must be. I mean, because if you look at his Logic demo, he didn't do a whole lot to it. I mean, you don't see imagers and reverbs, and he's famous for not putting extra reverb on things. All his faders are at 0 the entire demo, which is
that's my approach, dude.
That's pretty
that's
good.
How I do it, man. Like,
but if you do that with even like Hollywood Orchestra, some things you have to go in and mess with. Because
but I think that they're trying to demonstrate the power of it all being in one plug-in, and like it's recorded well, like you said. I think it said right here, Curtis, 5 spill signals. So
yeah. So it's like distant sounds from mics that are over in the brass section, which
is where the sound comes from. That is huge.
Yeah, Yeah, that's pretty genius, actually. I think that's going to be a big differentiator.
Because that's the thing. Like, if you go back and listen to like old rock and roll recordings, they would sometimes record in the room together as they played. So you would get spill from like the vocals still in the drum mics and the guitars and the bass, which adds, you know, realism and that texture. But I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, I knew this wasn't going to release that day. I just had a feeling. I was like, no, this is coming in a couple months. So it sounds like they were putting this together like the last week and a half. But I mean, obviously they were building it longer, but you know, to demo it. So this is a huge undertaking, and I don't think they really. I think there's more coming for this thing. You know what I mean? I think this is something that they're going to work on and improve on, and like I said, they might add even more stuff, which they can. That's the beauty about them working in their own dedicated plug-in system. No more contact. They can do whatever they want. And I think that's good. And I just want to say this before I forget. The one thing that really got me going, the collaboration. That's what got me. Yeah. Like they said, and obviously I know me and Curtis are really, and you, Chris, because you use Logic, they're going to create their own templates for this that they've been approved by Apple, which is the Logic guys, which is amazing. But they really stressed about where we can share as composers. We have one library. All you have to do is send your project file, and everybody's got the same sounds. That is huge in my book, because we've talked about collaborating, just doing something for fun. This would solve our problems. No more, you know, no stems, nothing like, hey, just use this one. If you all have it, great. That's huge for me. So I think, who knows where they're going to go from. Like they said, this is just the beginning. So I'm really excited to see what this has in store. So it's not so much the library, it's what they're trying to do, I guess, what appeals to me.
Yeah.
Because I've said it.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead, man.
I think that's cool. I mean, I'm interested in their template. I guess what I find the most exciting is that, like, so, you know, everybody says, like, we're done with orchestral samples. And I'm not 100% sure that's true. I mean, I still fight my orchestral samples. I don't know about you guys.
Every day.
You know, sometimes you have to fight them. And so any attempt to reduce that, I'm always excited about. And, you know, we haven't really seen a ton of, like, traditional orchestral libraries, especially big all-in-ones like this, in a long time. You know, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, we'll see somebody release, you know, a strings or a brass, you know, and there's been a lot of great work there, and there's a lot of libraries I haven't tried that are those. But in terms of this, just all-in-one, soup to nuts, strings, brass, winds, percussion, like, here's in one library. I mean, I don't think we've really seen that since, like, what, like East-West Quantum Leap Symphonic Orchestra, the really old one. Yeah, that's been a while since we've seen one that's just one massive package. So I'm interested, and you know, sampling has come forward since then. And you know, when you look at a lot of the more modern, like especially string libraries, you know, I see a lot of increases in playability. In particular, I mentioned this on the Discord and on Twitter, but I was very skeptical of the Spitfire. You know, here's 800,000 mics for you to mix approach things, but I've come around on it. I really have. I've had a couple of scenarios where I needed Eric Whitacre choirs to sound different than what it sounded like when I was first programming it, and I go in and I mess with those mics, and I'm able to completely change what it sounds like, and that just makes the library more flexible to me. That just makes it more useful. That makes it something I can use in more contexts. So I'm kind of in on that. You know, I think it's going to be great. You know, I say it all the time, but those Hans Zimmer strings, riser and bottle mics, they're the weirdest sound in the universe, but you can make the strings effectively into a really cool synth pad with them. That's cool. So I'm just glad that somebody has not given up on traditional orchestral all-in-one sampling, really, is what I am glad to see. And I'm hoping that maybe this spurs maybe their competitors to try some stuff. I mean, I'd love to see, you know, East West do a Symphonic Orchestra 2 or something, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it'd be great. So that's what I.
They haven't really done anything big. Like, they haven't really done any big projects that I'm aware of.
They haven't done any big projects since they started their subscription. You're right.
No, Cinesamples too. Like, they haven't really done anything big either. Which I like Cinesamples, and I would like to see them overhaul their stuff. Because I like them as a company. I like Michael Patty. I just like what they stand for.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could say the library is huge. If it wasn't
Yeah.
condensed, it would be about, what was it, 1.5 terabytes or 1.4, but they got it to 600
Mhm.
gigabytes. And you can buy an SSD. So, which is great that they're offering the introductory price until November 7th. It's $749 American. And then the SSD is $199 right now. If you order before October 14th, you'll get the the product is the same of the day of release. So I think that's really cool of them to offer that. $749 is a steal, man. That's a steal. $999 is the regular, and I was right. Everybody looked at me funny in the Discord. I was like, no, it's $999. Because they want this in the hands of every composer. This is it. This is gonna be your bread and butter. That's what they want. I'm just curious to see what else they add to this. Are they gonna do expansions? Kind of, isn't Orchestral Tools doing that? Like you can buy parts or something. That's what somebody told me.
Yeah, they're going to be doing that in their own player. You can literally buy like violin one with select mics as well.
Okay.
So you don't have to get the entire mic selection either for an instrument.
Kind of like oh geez, I can't think of the name. The first people that did sample libraries, they did the Cube.
BSL?
Yeah. Yes. BSL. Yeah. That's kind of how they do it, don't they? Or they did it, or whatever.
Oh, I don't. I've never.
Isn't
used
it
their
weird?
stuff.
Like they were like the standard, and now it's just like, who? I'm not trying to badmouth. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I thought, but their stuff works because it's like you build your own rooms, and I think a lot. And that's what's changed sampling. That's what's changed what we do. Is when they started building everything in the plugin, the rooms and all that, like Spitfire, they build it all for you. Don't need a reverb, really. You could use everything under the hood. And there you go. You heard if you go, we'll put the SoundCloud link to Andy's piece that they played. And like Curtis said, like there was very hardly anything on it. It's just, that's how good it is. And that's how much the room is there. And I think something you alluded to, Chris, most composers just want something that works right out of the box. Like I don't want to have to monkey with it. I just want to write music. And I think that's where we're going. Like you just pull up the plugin, man. You just go. You don't have to worry about routing all this stuff and making rooms, and that's what we don't want. That like we just want to write the music. I don't know. What do you guys feel? Are you on board with that too, or do you like doing that stuff?
That's the ultimate like ideal, right? The plug and play immediately, just being able to translate what you hear in your head into the DAW as quickly as possible. I think a lot of us have gotten used to having to tweak and stuff to the point that we enjoy it, or some people just absolutely hate it. But,
I hate it.
But ultimately, if we can, if we can pull up a patch and say like, you know, I want this articulation. I want it to sound like this. I don't want to do key switching. I just want to get it down.
Yes.
You know, it's definitely something that's heading in the right direction. And so, you know, a company like Performance Samples, for example, is you know, innovative in that manner, right? They don't do any key switches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you just play it, dude, and it will do what you want it. Like if you do a staccato, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I want, because 9 times out of 10, like when I'm playing something and I have to program it, I lose my thunder. Like I lose the inspiration. So yeah, I definitely Performance Samples. Yeah, good call there. I was definitely going to say that because I think it was like adventure horns and adventure strings. Like really.
Yeah,
I mean, but the one thing I'll say though is I tried to put that in other stuff. It was really hard to get it with other libraries. I don't know if you found that, but the playability of it, amazing. Obviously, in the hands of someone good, a good MIDI programmer, can make it sound good. I know Mike Verda did a demo for those, and he did a pretty good job on it.
Cool.
Any final thoughts? Or I mean, I guess we could go over the. Okay, they don't have the full. Okay, so I'm looking at the website. They don't have full articulation list right now. So
yeah, I'm not super concerned.
Yeah, well, you've already.
I know people are like, they don't include staccatos on one of their string libraries. I'm like, yeah, but they include spiccatos, and
that's true.
That's all you use anyway.
Short notes. Yep.
Yeah, they don't, and that really. That it is kind of discerning when you pay. I bought the package deal of Symphony Orchestra, whatever, not the professional or whatever before that, and yeah, it doesn't have spiccato. It has no staccato.
It's the chamber strings, or there's one where there's only spiccato, not staccato or staccatissimo.
It's their strings library, the green one.
Yeah,
I have it.
Really? Symphonic strings?
Yeah, it's just spiccatos. Okay. It's not staccatos.
Well, I mean, that's all I ever use anyway.
I mean, It's
For
whatever.
a sample, it sounds so much better.
You're right.
Like maybe somebody would not truly be bouncing the bow in this, scenario
Yeah.
with actually recording, but it's like functionally the same. I mean, I get it. It's expensive, but geez, I mean, I think that's such an. I just want that to be noted as a nitpick.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes,
But
yes.
when you pay $1,500, it should be included. I'm just saying, if you can get it in a library that's like $5.99, you know what I'm saying? I'm just whatever. It's just a gripe. But if you want to be the standard of all sample libraries, and like they said, they want this is the standard in orchestra sampling. Hello. I will say this: that harp, oh, dude, that harp sounded amazing when they.
The winds too, the high winds in that demo are.
I was like, dude, I'd buy that library just for the harp. I mean, it was so detailed, and I'm on the fence. I mean, I'm gonna pre-order this. Obviously, a 749, it's a steal. I just don't know how it's gonna fit in my workflow, but obviously, because now this is a different room. This isn't Air Studios. So how is this going to fit with your...
Well, I think that's a good thing. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with Air, but I think Spitfire's Air stuff is a little wet, and I would like something a little more neutral. So I was excited that it was in a different space. Although the space is, enormous. So maybe that's not a good...
They like their reverb.
Well, I mean, and understandably, Air has an amazing sound, but I mean, I just like it as an option, not as a...
you've said it many times, and I totally agree with you. There should be like a button, pretty dry. I don't know. That's just not what Spitfire does.
Slowly. Yeah,
like, they're going for that. This is it. This is your one-stop all. Now use it. Like we're saying, the one-stop shop. You don't need to build the room. You don't need. It already sounds great, so use it. But then then people are gonna say, well, then everybody's gonna sound like okay, whatever. It's like then learn how to be unique. But so the mics and mixes, there's a lot. I'm looking at it right now. So there's mono, closed, tree, out, ambient, balcony, leaders, stereo. Leaders interesting because that's where the conductor is, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Over the
I don't quite understand how that differs from tree, but whatever.
It's right over the conductor's head, I think.
Yeah, the tree's pretty close to that. I'm not sure.
But aren't they using the mic? Different. That mic, the BBC mic, isn't that the leader mic?
No, I think that's the mono. Because they mentioned that mic is mono because it's like from the 30s. It looks like a 30s era mic.
Is the BBC mic that they would actually use?
Yeah, I think that's mono.
Okay.
That's what I would guess because they did mention it was a mono mic, which makes sense for the era.
Okay. Yeah, stereo, mid, sides, closed, wideband, 5 spill mics, and then there's 3 mixes. Mix 1, that's full. Mix 2 by Jake Johnson, and then Atmos, 2 front and rear. So
Atmos is really cool. I mean, I'm never going to have an Atmos setup. I am never working in anything other than stereo unless I am like screaming and crying forced to. But it's cool that that's there as an option.
Yeah. Well, they're future-proofing themselves, and that's good.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's just 2 front, 2 rear is what they're giving you.
Yep, 2 front, 2 rear. Yep, that's what it says. Sorry, I didn't say that. No, I mean they're giving you percussion tuned, untuned. The only thing it's missing is choir, but I guess if you have Erica Whitacre, I mean, what more do you need? If you're going for that, obviously epic choir thing, does it do it? I mean, I haven't experimented with that, but dude, just that ambient, oh god. It's so good, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
It's so good. If you don't have Erica Whitacre Library, I got it on sale. Yes. So that was like
on sale. I mean, the price for BBC Orchestra on sale is $750, which is an insanely good price. That's an insanely good price. I think how much is? I just want to see.
Obviously, with the SSD, it's about $900, but still.
Sure, if you buy the SSD, but you don't have to buy the SSD. Where is Symphonic Orchestra? How much is Symphonic Orchestra right now?
I think it's like $500 now. $499.
Let's look. Symphonic Orchestra buy now. It looks like they've marked it down to $450 or $467 for platinum. Okay.
Used to be like what, $2,000?
Yeah, I bought. They had a buy one get one, and I bought Hollywood Strings for like $1,500, and then I got Symphonic Orchestra Platinum as my get one.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot.
Oh, and this is.
I'm assuming the Spitfire stuff is all 24-bit.
I'm looking. I don't see it yet, but yeah, I'm guessing it is. I mean, I would if it's not, then I don't see that. It is NKS compatible. I know some people were worried about that. VST2. Yeah, I don't see where it says that.
I think everything they do is 24.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
It's usually 24/48. Is usually
I was looking at the requirements because, dude, I wonder if this is going to be a resource hog.
They said you can throw it on even older machines and still use it.
i5 minimum quad core.
That's not.
They recommend i7 6-core, 16 gigs of RAM. That's not bad.
That's not too bad, yeah.
That's Mac. PC.
It's pretty exciting. I mean, I people I think got a little hyped over it. I think maybe a little bit too much, but I will say that it's just nice to see a full orchestral sample library, as the focus. It's just really great to see it, and I'm hoping that, like they mentioned, they've been doing this for a while and they learned a lot. So I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them to see what they've improved on, what they feel like. I think this is a good start, and like I said, I'd love to see everyone else start following suit and start putting out their next generation orchestral libraries. Like, it'd be great to hear them, because I do think there's room for improvement.
Oh yeah, scripting definitely. Like I said, from what I heard just from that demo, I was blown away. I was like, wow. I mean, the transitions, just everything felt, and like it had that like. The sound, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the sound, like a real instrument. Like, it doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like, it all flowed nicely. I mean, obviously you can nitpick it and probably listen to it over and over and find things, but just from first initial listen on that live stream, like I said, I literally thought for like 10 seconds, like, this is a sample library? I'm like, Jesus, this sounds like a recording. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it had that kind of feel to it. Like, I'm listening to an orchestral recording. Obviously, like you said, that goes to orchestration, the MIDI programming. I get that, but just okay, if that dude can do that, that's the the bar. Like, it can sound that good. And like you said, this is next generation, and I'm excited. I just want to see what they're going to do with this, because obviously in their own player, it's their own thing. They don't have to pay license fee. They don't have to anybody tell them what to do. I'm really to see where they're going to go with this. And like I said, for me, it was when they were talking about collaborating with other composers and sending files. That really got to me, because I'm really huge on that. And if you go to our Discord, I have a channel for Collaborate, which nobody uses, so use it. Maybe this will get people to start using it. I just think we have a lot to learn from other people, and collaborating with people is the best way to learn. So I'm excited. I mean, like I said, I'm probably going to pre-order this probably next week, but yeah, I'm just on the fence about the SSD, because I do have an SSD that I could fit it on, but I'm thinking, I probably should just do the SSD.
I just don't want to. I have a 1 terabyte cap.
Yeah,
that's 60% of my 1 terabyte cap for the month.
Right.
So I ordered the SSD. I'll still install it. I'm not gonna.
I wonder what SSD they're using. It doesn't say.
I don't know.
What if it's a Samsung? Or if maybe it's proprietary.
I mean, $200 for a 1 terabyte SSD. Everyone's like, it's so expensive. But I was like, I remember paying a lot more.
What's a terabyte, dude? Aren't they like $400?
I mean, they're like $100
for a terabyte.
Now. Yeah, you can go online. And
get it. I got my 4 terabyte for $150. So
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and there's different qualities of SSD.
Right.
Like, there's like different. I mean, I doubt this is the like high end. Like I said I said this on VI Control, but it's not. This is not an enterprise SSD or what's called an SLC, single level cell SSD, because those are thousands of dollars. But
right.
But it is definitely it depending on what SSD, 200 is probably fine, and like others have said, it's not like it costs them $0 to package these, to ship these, to create the image for these. Those are non-zero costs. So I think $200 is more than fair for this. Again,
it's coming in a pretty box.
I bought Hollywood Strings for $1,500, and they shipped me a 300 gigabyte,
hard spinning drive,
5,200 spinning drive. Like, I mean, come on, guys. Like, can we show a little bit of gratitude for how much better it is, even like 7 years later or whatever?
Dude, that's like less than 10 years ago, right? I mean,
it's like
Jesus.
Yeah,
it's gonna come in a pretty box, just like
I'm
Apple.
sure.
Yes.
It'll be beautiful. They'll have to do like an unboxing, like with
I'm excited though. I mean, I really am excited. For once in a while, this has gotten me excited to be a composer, and
it's gotten Chris excited. That's good.
Yeah,
You gonna do it, Chris? You gonna do it, Chris? You gonna jump in like me?
You have to give me time to think about that, but we'll see.
He's an orchestral tools guy.
Yeah, well, I'm at the point where like I do have every section covered, so I don't necessarily need it, but it would be really nice to have, obviously. So something to think about for sure. Yeah,
it's gear lust. Yeah. We all have it. All right. Well, anything else? Any last things? I think we covered it. Obviously, they didn't really release too much. I mean, because they said they're still working on it, and articulation list is coming. I'm curious to see what Flintando sounds like. That dude, I never knew what those were until I bought a Spitfire library, and that's my favorite articulation is Flintando on strings. Ugh, God, I love it. Yeah. So hold on. I wanted to see one thing. Let's see. What do they have for horn? I'd seen some people making some comments about the horns. 4 horns, trumpet, 2 trumpets, a tenor trombone, bass trombone, contrabass, tuba, and contra.
The bass trombone's A2, so there's no singular solo bass trombone. Which, I mean, who cares?
Which I don't think they have in their brass.
Buy the ATO 66 trombones library.
Jesus Christ.
You want trombones?
66 trombones.
Yes, they do have a 66 trombones. I should make that my pick of the week. I've never used it.
Oh,
no,
man.
They do.
Yeah, they got the basics covered. I mean, this is the BBC Orchestra, so I mean, yeah, your bases are covered, man.
If you can't use a solo, if you're not buying a library because it doesn't have a solo bass trombone, I'm just like,
oh no, I think it was the horns. People were upset with the horns. It's only 4 horns.
It's because it's 4 instead of 6, which I mean, 4 horns is standard. So this idea of 6 and 8 horns, it's like, yeah, that's like late romantic into Hans Zimmer.
Just buy the 12 horn ensemble from Cinesamples.
That's right. There you go.
Which I'm having trouble getting to sound good a little bit.
Really?
Lately, yeah.
I don't use it,
But all right. Well, let's move on to our picks of the month, week.
Picks of the podcast.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you want to go first, man?
Yeah. So for me, I picked up my first East-West product ever, which was Hollywood Pop Brass, and it sounds as good as it does in the demos, in my opinion. I really like it. I haven't used it in any productions yet, but I can definitely see myself doing so if I'm producing a song that's in the funk or pop style that needs a bit of like brass in it. I don't know if we talked about it before, but it's like just ensembles. There's no soloists, although you can isolate, the soloists kind of using the mics, but there's bleed from the other mics as well. But in general, it's a really good, solid, all-around pop brass solution for like anything like Uptown Funk or, any pop music with a Latin influence that needs some good brass in it. It's definitely a really, really good product to use. My first experiences with Play aren't bad at all. The only gripe I had at all with it was that it just takes some time to load the samples, especially the legato samples. But
once it's loaded, it's loaded.
Yeah. So, yeah. Other than that, it's really nice, and I think I got it at a really good deal as well. So, dude,
they're always on sale. Like now's the time to buy East-West stuff because they're always doing a sale. They're doing a Labor Day sale now. They just did but yeah. Yeah, the thing about Play Engine is once it's loaded, it's loaded. Like Contact, everybody's so used to Contact, like it loads as you play, which is great. But that's the only drawback if you're not used to it, because it takes a little bit to load. But once it's loaded, you never have to monkey with it again.
Right.
But I never had problems with Play Engine. I know a lot of people did, and Curtis, I know you said it's been your most stable. But I don't think we have to worry about it. I think, like I said, Spitfire is set in the way. And Orchestral Tools is coming out with their own player, right? I mean, that's what most companies are going to do. Yeah. They're just going to build their own, and they don't have to pay that license fee. And then that might bring the price of libraries down. I think that's why this one came in at $9.99. It's cool.
Right.
All right, Curtis?
So my pick of the week, I was gonna actually go with LA Modern Percussion because I had just picked it up, but along with picking that up, I decided actually to change my pick to the Scoring Synths, which is the other audio Ollie VST that they sell. It's pretty cool. They've basically put some vintage synths into a beautiful room down in Nashville in Ocean Way Studios and done some recording on them and sampled them. So you get that sort of more vintage analog feel with it. And plus you can, bring that beautiful room in. It's a wonderful space. It's a wonderful studio. I won't get too specific, but a recent trailer of mine might have been recorded there. So it's real lovely. That's one of the reasons I saw. Oh, it's at Ocean Way. Okay, buying it. Also, one of the demos is by Brad Knight, who I actually went to high school with. Weirdly enough, briefly, he was about a year ahead of me, but he's a great musician. Everyone should go license his music on MusicBed. Blah blah blah. But yeah, no, this is a really great. Really great little thing. They've got the arpeggiator is really performant, which is really nice. They've got a really clean sound. Just like if you're looking for kind of just basic vintage synths. Now these are not like, this is not like buying an output product where you get, 400 presets, right? Like these are just like vintage synths. So you're getting, sines and saws and, just very, very retro sounding stuff and only a few of them. But then you go in and manipulate it to turn it into something new and different. So if that's not your gig, this isn't for you. But if you're looking for something really clean that sounds really good, their demos are you can really tell what you can do with this by just listening to those it's like 6 or 7 demos they've got there. It's really good. It's really it's a lovely little piece of VST. It's not too expensive. I think it's only like $279. Yeah, $279, which is, again, I'm always careful about saying something's cheap. I mean, no, that's not zero, and people have different financial circumstances. But in terms of overall VSTs, that's not too bad. So, and like I said, same audio Ollie quality that you get in LA Modern Percussion, just with synths and something a little bit more tonal. So
nice. How many synths did you say? How many synths come with it? Are they?
It's just it's like your standard saw sine triangle stuff, and then you go in and you make the make the thing. So I haven't actually had a ton of time to play with it, but I've already used it on a couple of things and it's been pretty good. So
nice. I like that. I have the Imperia or whatever, those package synths, those classic synths, which I put in my template. So I've been monkeying with those, which is cool. All right, so for my pick of the month week is Spitfire Studio Strings. The only reason I bought this because I got it on sale. I saw it on sale and I think it was like $1 something. I was like, dude, you can't. I mean, come on, you can't beat that for a Spitfire product. $100 for a string library. So I picked it up. I used it a few times just to test it out. Love the sound. So it's not it's kind of in that in between phase. It's not chamber strings. It's not the full strings. So it kind of sits there. It's 8 violin 1s, 6 violin 2s, 6, 6, and 4. So, kind of smaller, but not chamber sized, obviously. So it has definitely a different quality to it. So if you're going for more of intimate sound, this would work perfect. And they sound really good. Like I said, I only use it on one piece, so I haven't really. And this is huge. It actually includes runs. Oh my God, a Spitfire like most they don't even have runs in their huge library. Maybe the professional one, but the one I have, it doesn't have it. So that was one of the reasons why I bought it.
Nice.
Just so I can use runs in Air Studios, and it's got some cool stuff in there, flantandos, like glisses and stuff, like FX stuff that you can do with violin. So I was watching a demo Paul was doing. I think he was using the professional version. And I really loved the sound. And when I saw that they were on sale, I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I think at the time the professional one was like $299 or something. But I was like, man, I don't need that. What I'm going to use it for is just going to be basic stuff. But so that's my pick. It's not on sale anymore. It's $249. I think I got it for maybe $149, $150, around that range. I know it was less than $200. So, and this was like a newer library they put out, I think. Was it last year or this year? Beginning, I can't remember, but it's fairly new. New intuitive GUI with inline help. I wish it was in their instead of Contact. I'm hoping the announcement's coming soon from Spitfire, where they take all their old libraries and put it in their new one. I'm really looking forward to that. I really like it. But yeah, that's my pick of the week. I think that's going to conclude this episode. That was interesting. We had a lot of stuff to talk about.
A lot of stuff.
Covered a lot of things on this one. Mostly sample libraries, but the death of melody, I thought we covered that pretty well. But yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning into the Composing Made Simple podcast. As always, if you want to find out more about us, you can go to composingmadesimple.com, which we have some articles on there that I've been writing, hopefully to do more. Please, if you're listening to this on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this, please leave us a review. Also, if you want to contact me, Chris, or Curtis, you can hop over to our Composing Made Simple Discord channel. We have over almost 200 people in there now. It's getting pretty active. Obviously, on the Spitfire announcement, it was pretty active that day. There's a link on the website. You can find us there, and you can come talk with us, ask us questions, get your tracks reviewed, whatever. But as always, thanks for listening, and we'll hear. You
should end off with that, Todd. Don't even.
No, don't edit it. Don't edit it. Don't edit anything.
Put it all.
We're keeping it real, man. That's it. Anyway, thanks for listening, tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.